Hi there, welcome to my channel. This is Krista here for your weekly reading for the sign of Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising. If you don't know what your Moon and Rising signs are, Scorpio, you can check out the description box for a link called Always Astrology, and you can put in your information there and it'll give you a snapshot of your birth chart. So if the Scorpio general reading doesn't apply to you or doesn't resonate, you can always check out your rising or moon sign readings and see if those help this week for you. That being said, I hope this does resonate with you and you take something from this that's positive. Information about how to contact me, my ebook, and about the cards that I'm using today are in the description box as well. So I'll be using the Wisdom of the Oracle Tarot deck, the Medicine Card Tarot, and the Healing of the Angels Tarot like I have before. However, I'll be doing a slightly different reading this week where I'll be using a 3-card spread with a central issue, 2 qualifiers, and the bottom of the deck for central general energy for the week, Scorpio. So I hope you enjoy the reading. Let's begin. I wish for Scorpio all success, joy, and wellness. I invoke spirits of love, light, and beauty. I call upon Archangels Michael, Gabriel, Metatron, and Uriel to guide this reading in peace, clarity, protection, and wisdom. First card in the central position, Scorpio, is Deep Knowing. So this is a moon-heavy symbology card. It's also a very highly spiritual card. You're aware of something or cognizant of something in your own intuition that you've been brushing off for a long time or have been in the habit of brushing off that you're not willing to brush off anymore. It could be something as significant as psychic ability or being willing to or being able to trust and follow your intuition, which is guiding you to your highest purpose and power, and finally becoming confident in that. Or brushing off negativity or negative messages about intuition, all things having to do with femininity or being female, or psychic ability. So a deep knowing. It could also be, Scorpio, in a general sense, that if you do have a specific question or query or concern this week, that it appears as though you already know what to do about it or how to address it or confront it. And you didn't need to read a book about it or learn about it per se anywhere. It's like you already know. So grand intuition. To the right of deep knowing is all that glitters, which is basically the sign of, the card of attraction and what you're attracting and why. And perhaps even more importantly than that, you're discovering or asking if this is what you really want. Is this what you truly want to be in the world? We'll look at these in detail in just a moment. And then to the left of deep knowing is clean it up. So just some baggage. If it's an emotional week for you, Scorpio, there's baggage that you're going to clear out this week. This could be in the material world for you as well, where you're literally doing spring cleaning. You're getting rid of things that you know are clutter. You don't need anymore. You've been clinging to, and you're ready to let go of so that someone else can enjoy. I don't see that you're throwing things out or garbaging things necessarily, but you're willing to pass something on or to get rid of it to make room for something else. Wow, and at the bottom of the deck for your general energy for the week, Scorpio, is building blocks. So this is something that you have already begun whatever this general reading applies to this week for you. You've already begun. You've made the steps to move forward in a specific direction, and you've planned this out for yourself. You recognize that there are many phases and steps to the overall outcome, and that you're willing to take each and every step and phase as it comes. So you're exhibiting a lot of patience this week for the steps that you need to take. So just last week we talked about, for example, putting things into practice that you've done a lot of soul searching about. And this could be phase one, which is making a physical list or making a physical plan about what you're ready to do and willing to do, and then taking those actual steps. So let's look at the cards in a little bit more detail here, Scorpio. Deep knowing. So you'll see that it actually has 2 moons in it. So the number 2 is associated with the moon as well. So this could be intuition, introversion, psychic energy, phases, moon phases, understanding cycles, the role of cycles in your life, not necessarily time, as a human construct, but actual cycles. And of course we have the owl in the center, and the owl is one of the oldest and most recognizable symbols of wisdom and deep knowledge, and the night and dark. And maybe this is a dark place for you this week. Maybe you're feeling dark, maybe you feel like you're coming out of the dark, or that you might be feeling in the dark this week. Yeah, I see that there's still a lot of pondering. You're pondering. You've come to the decision to take steps here. The building blocks means that you've already done the thought processing, the planning. You're building that world for yourself, but it is one step at a time here. You're taking steps. So this could be a moment or a week where you're feeling unsure. Even though you know what's ahead, you know this is the best thing for you, you may still feel a little bit uncomfortable this week, Scorpio, with even the best laid plans, the best laid building blocks. A little bit maybe like a fish out of water, a little bit out of your element. You're letting go of things that don't serve you anymore. Like I said, I don't feel like you're being garbaged or things are being tossed out. And you may even be reluctant to let go of certain things that don't serve you anymore, or that could create room for something new in your life. So clinging is something to look at this week in a serious way, whether those are ideas or people or relationships or attitudes. Or physical things, like what you're clinging to and why. But I really feel like you know that you're at the right stage and place in your life for yourself right now. And even if it feels uncomfortable this week, you know it's the right thing to do for you. And you know that things will work out in the long run, that this is just perhaps a dark or difficult phase for you. You might even feel a little bit alone this week, or keep yourself alone, as in a sense of introversion. And that might be a sense of self-protection as well, where you're maybe a little raw or emotional, and you're protective of that. You don't want to share that with everybody. And if this isn't you as the actor or the individual for whom all this applies to, you could be presented with energy that holds this. You might be presented with people or attitudes or circumstances that hold this kind of energy. So if this isn't you, this is energy that you might encounter this week, Scorpio. So for example, you might be helping someone through this kind of energy. But the deep knowing is never a bad thing. It means that you know something that's right for you. That, like I said, perhaps you've brushed off before, hadn't listened to, or didn't take seriously before, and now you just know what's best. So that's lovely. even though it might feel a little lonely, or you might feel that you can't talk to somebody about it. I feel like there's at least one person who you're close to that you can talk to non-judgmentally about this. And you might be relying a little bit too much on yourself recently. So try to reach out if you feel that you can and you can trust someone to reach out and express any hesitation or express any, you know, concern or worry with somebody else so you don't feel alone this week. We're looking to the right at all that glitters. We know that ends with isn't gold. And this is really just reminding us to ask where we belong and why we think we belong there. Because ultimately, there are two ways to live our lives at least, and that is for our own personal gain, whether or not we get anything out of it, or for the cause, okay? So the cause in quotes, whatever the cause is for you, whatever you get out of that. And I think this is asking this week, especially in a sense of introversion and perhaps mulling things over, or feeling like you're aware of something that you weren't before, or willing to say it is real for you, where before you might have made fun of it or brushed it off. You might be facing this question again where, you know, I'm here and I belong here and I'm really good here, but is this what I really want? And this brings me a lot of pleasure, and it might even bring you power in whatever sense that it applies to you this week, Scorpio. But you may be questioning if that's worth it for you. If that's what you really want. Do you want that kind of power? And if you do, why? And what does it bring you? Is it a status symbol, or do you want status symbols, and why? And there's nothing wrong with it if you do, but it could also be asking too, if this is what you're really yearning for, you will need to decide what it is you need to do and who you need to be in order to get what you want. So this is a card around definitive questions that you have about moving forward in the building blocks that you've begun for yourself, that you've invented for yourself to get to another level in life. These are just some general questions about what you plan to get out of it. So this, on the surface, for example, there are two gem-encrusted masks on a pile of gold, right? I mean, on the surface, who doesn't want that? But there is always a price. There is always a price to pay, no matter what we want and what we do. And many times that price is worth it. Many times what we give up or what we sacrifice is worth it. And this card is asking you in this position this week, Scorpio, is it worth it? Whatever you're giving up to have it, is it worth it? And is there another way to do it? And is it what you really want? So no light questions here. But again, it's for the week. And it could very well apply to just one area of your life. So I don't feel like this is going to take over anything, but there's definitely some intensity here and some soul searching here still, even though you've already begun another process or another level of life or living, thinking or believing here, building blocks. And then to the left of deep knowing, as I mentioned earlier, is cleaning it up. And this is, like I said, this is creating an elemental atmosphere of shedding, as it were. So I don't think you're going to be seeing things that were useful to you as garbage necessarily, but that in order to move on or to make room for other things in your life that you truly want, for example, what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to sacrifice to get to that place? Or to get to that place of understanding, if it's not in the material world. Maybe it's an idea or a thought process, beliefs, patterns of behavior, however this applies. You're willing to do some shedding this week. There's a lot of emotional and mental, psychological activity this week for you, Scorpio. And I really encourage you to reach out for care and assistance this week, and try not to stay shut in or try not to shut people out, because you play your cards close to the chest generally, and like many smart people, trust very few people, so this is good. But there is at least one person in your life that you can trust this week, Scorpio, that if you feel heavy or you really feel like it would help to talk to someone else this week, please reach out and do that. And don't feel like you're burdening anyone. If you don't know anyone in the manifest world, you can always call on a spirit guide or Archangel Michael, for example, to help you through difficult times. As with, I mean, you're an impossibly, you're the sign of the Phoenix, right? So, I mean, even if there is something that's concerning, or you think that's going to fall down or break apart, or you don't have all the answers, there's never a time, out of all the signs in the zodiac, there is never going to be a time, Scorpio, that you're not going to benefit from something not going your way or falling apart. You're one of the few signs that it's going to improve on going through difficulty or a hard time. So please trust that whatever you are encountering this week, especially if it is difficult, that it will lead to greater things, and it will improve your way of seeing the world and interacting with other people, and it will perhaps even create a larger sense of compassion for others by having gone through something and come out the other side of that. So let's look at some additional messages from the Medicine Card Tarot here, Scorpio. Something is definitely underway for you that you've done a great deal of soul searching about, great deal of planning and communication and consideration. Building blocks is not the card of haphazard ideas and plans. This is very concrete. You've decided upon something very concrete. Let's see what this is. Oh wow, the law. So we have the card of the Crow, whose keyword is the law. This is the law of all things. This is the law of attraction, natural law. This is the law of right and wrong. This is the law of give and take. Okay, and it's also the law of polarity. You can see the crow looking at his or her reflection. This is a polar. This is mirror. It could even be balance, dark and light. And like I said, you could be feeling some of that this week, where you know you have a lot to be thankful for, and you're not trying to be ungrateful or difficult or seeing things as more of a challenge than they were before this week. But for some reason this week you're in a fantastic way. It's always wonderful when we ask why we do certain things, and this is a real opportunity this week, Scorpio, for you to ask why you're involved in what you're involved in, what you plan to get out of it, and what you are willing to sacrifice to get it, while remaining true to yourself, okay? This is incredibly important to Scorpios, Capricorns, and Leos, frankly, is remaining completely authentic, because you give so much. So the law here, if it applies and generally in a legal sense to you, then please apply that to your personal situation. If this is an actual legal event in your life, then apply, of course, these messages in a legal way. But even though some decisions have been made and some things are set in stone, you're still doing some soul searching and really learning more about yourself. So this is really fantastic. It takes a lot of courage to dig deep and to learn what it is, where we belong, what we're willing to give up, and so forth. So no small beans. It's a great way to grow in the world. And as I said, you're the sign of the Phoenix, so never feel like you know, a poor decision, or having forgotten something or let something go that you really wish you had hung on to, for example, it's not going to detract from what you're doing next. It really isn't. Because everything gives back in this sense, especially when it comes to, you know, the law of greater things, the law of higher purposes and belonging or sacrifice. Even if you do sacrifice something that you felt you couldn't before, or you don't know what you're going to do without, or you don't even know how to undo it or give it up, or what it's going to mean for your reputation if you do, I think you're going to be very pleased with yourself if you decide to do that. Very pleased with yourself. What's this? Freedom. There you go. So there's going to be a remarkable amount of freedom this week around deciding for yourself what the answers to these questions are for you, Scorpio. Freedom might even occur in the preliminary stages of even asking these questions. There's a certain freedom in getting to the point where you're willing to ask some difficult questions about about concrete things in your life, and that can be very freeing, even getting to that point. But on a larger sense, I think there's a great deal of freedom here being made because you've produced this for yourself. I don't think this is situational. I don't think you're finding yourself in this situation. You might be surrounded, if this isn't you personally, you might be surrounded by these energies, fair enough. But if this is applying to you personally, even though this is maybe an internal fight for you, or there's some loneliness, or you are worried about what you're giving up or giving away, how that's going to affect overall circumstances for you, I think trusting in the sense of freedom that it's already bringing you is the way to move forward. And this is, who can argue with freedom? Freedom is not a bad thing. Freedom from constraint, or from bondage, or from worry and concern, or even freedom from going backwards. Or worse, freedom from going around in circles doing the same thing over and over. So you might even find this week, Scorpio, that there's just, because of well-laid plans, there's a freedom from going around in circles, and that could very well be all the relief you need this week. So I really hope you enjoyed your reading, Scorpio. Please let me know what you think about that in the comments below. And please take good care of yourself until I see you next week around the 30th for your next weekly reading. Take care, Scorpio. Bye.